Let me tell you the story of a fish I knew. She was a little scared and timid too. Before she could swim, she had to learn how to see. So I'll tell you of a little fish called me. Be a fish without eyes. Oh, let me be led by your voice, your song, your eyes. I'll tell you her eyes were bad, but she heard pretty good, hearing lies and thinking it was how it should be. How I want to be a fish without eyes. Oh, let me be led by your voice, your song, your eyes. 'Cause your eyes, you see, you saw this little fish and said you've got big plans she doesn't need to see, 'cause I'll be her eyes. With all the lights gone, all she hears is me. Now this little fish can swim and be free. Oh, how I want to be a fish without eyes. Let me be led by your voice, your song, your eyes. And now I'll listen to you. I can be finally free. I can see the beautiful fish you have made me to be. Oh, how I want to be a fish without eyes. Oh, let me be led by your voice, your song, your eyes. Oh, how I want to be a fish without eyes. Oh, let me be led by your voice, your song, your eyes.
Hello, my name is Claudia, and one verse I'd say that really sums up this past year would be Acts 17:28. It says, "In him we live and move and have our being." My inspiration for this video came from a challenge I was given this past January. It was a challenge to be blind for a week. However, the really interesting thing about that challenge came a few days before it was even given to me. I was in an inner healing session with Mama Joyce, and she begins my session by admiring a deep stillness that she sees inside of me. But she compared it to the bottom of the ocean, where it is still and quiet and dark, and there are fish down there that have no eyes at all. But they swim and move, and they get around just fine. So in the same way, I'm to be led by God's Spirit and not by the things I may see around me. He wants me to be completely sure of who he is and to move in confidence of how he's leading me, to trust that God sees far more and far better than I ever could. For so long, I had no idea of what my identity in Christ meant for me, personally. I didn't have an idea of how God saw me, and I cared way too much of how other people saw me. My tendency was to brush negative thoughts away and to brush them under the rug and just continue on in life. My mindset was, okay, everyone's supposed to feel like this, so it's fine, right? But that had to be completely removed if I was going to understand how to walk in the fullness of my identity. One of the first things I had to face was a lie that I was too young. So coming into this program, being the youngest one, I was initially intimidated by everyone else who was a lot older than me, about 5 years older than me. Everyone had a lot more life experience, so I was so focused on how others saw me and what they thought of me that it left me with a lot of fear. But I'm glad that God brought it up when he did in the beginning of the year. And he affirmed me in where he had called me, saying over me Jeremiah 1:6-8, saying, Ah, Lord God, behold, I do not know how to speak, for I am only a youth. But the Lord said to me, do not say I am only a youth, for to all to whom I send you, you shall go, and whatever I command you, you shall speak. Do not be afraid of them, for I am with you to deliver you, declares the Lord. He made it very clear that age does not matter, and he called me here and that I can trust and know that he knows what he's doing. The second lie that I had to really deal with this year was believing that I can't trust God. At first, I had no idea that I was operating out of this lie. I'd made it up in my mind to only go so far with God in terms of being real and open with him. And I think this really stemmed from about 3 years ago. I got into an argument with someone in my family, and it got to the point where I was so upset, and I was explaining very, very clearly that I was upset and I was hurt. So in essence, I gave them a very hurt area of my heart, but I was told by that person that there's no reason I should feel that way. And I felt shut down and really rejected. So I took that and received the lie that, okay, my feelings don't matter. And with that and other experiences where I was shut down or mocked or made fun of for my emotions, or being told numerous times as a child I was too sensitive, I took all of those experiences and I reflected them back on God. I would be able to say to God, I'm afraid of this, or I'm mad at this, but I wouldn't go further to put words to the fear, the thing that I was angry with, or the fear that I was struggling with. And I believed that in a way that when I would pour out my heart to God, I would be left hanging with my emotions all exposed and no one there to care for me. So my mindset was, what's the point? Like, why would I do that? I didn't trust God to receive me and care for me and my emotions and my sensitivity. When I was around other people in vulnerable, intimate settings, I was afraid of not being received with love, and that fear made it easy to downplay my emotions and to not be fully vulnerable with my brothers and sisters. But during the first consecration week back in October, when the program started, God spoke through another 516er saying that he's going to restore trust. And I then realized that I didn't really trust God as much as I thought that I did. But doing an assignment for Amanda, I was really struggling and wrestling with what would happen when I'm real with God. What if I pour my heart out? What would happen? I was so afraid of being hurt and rejected again, but I finally came to the realization that my heart is safe and secure with God. And he spoke very clearly and said to me that he is not going to play with my heart, and especially when I give it to him and trust in him. I even remember one time I was praying and I was trying to tell God how to care for my heart with my hands out like this, ready to give it to him. And it was so silly. He's the one who created and formed me. He knows me better than anyone. He knows what to say to make my heart feel so full and loved, and he won't handle it flippantly or foolishly. He knows what he's doing, and I'm able to trust in him and his goodness towards me. This next area, I would say, was probably one of the hardest ones that I had to deal with this year. But it was really necessary for me to receive healing in. And to be honest, I struggled with the lie of believing that I was not feminine enough for a while. No matter what I did, I struggled with the idea of what femininity was, regardless of how I portrayed myself on the outside. I believed that I was never good enough. And in a lot of ways, I rejected myself and the person that God had made. My perception of femininity was warped. I thought that to be feminine, you had to be physically weak. So if I could lift something heavy, I wasn't being very feminine. You're not supposed to like to get dirty. I also believed the lie that I was too tall or I was too rough to be considered feminine. So when I began to work through this, a lot of memories came up where I found that I was believing this lie. And yeah, like honestly, there were times when I played soccer when I was little, so all throughout my childhood and through high school. So there are times when I would accidentally knock other girls down, naturally because I was taller. And so many times in those instances, I felt guilt or shame like those times. Like in those times and other times like those, and I felt like there was something wrong with me, which is really not true. God showed me that what truly matters is how he's created me to be. Me, not how I look or how I act, but who I am. And he spoke very clear and intimate things into this area. Specifically, he spoke over me the word graceful and my gentle one. Not only that, but another time came when God spoke very intimately, and I didn't really expect this to happen, but he said very clearly that I want you to dance. And for God to say that was really huge for me. I had a specific dream twice this past year where I was dancing with a bunch of other girls, and there was one guy in the middle. Both dreams I felt really awkward and uncomfortable and clumsy and really far from graceful. I wanted so badly to dance well, and God saying that in a way it was him affirming the word graceful he had spoken over me that week. For him to say that he wants me to dance is an invitation to dance and live and walk and move and have the freedom in who he is, not based off of how I view others around me or how I see myself. But I ultimately believe that this was all tied together with truly being able to see myself as a woman. Although I knew I was not a child, I still felt that way in many ways. But Joyce took the time to sit me down and affirm me in all the things that she had been seeing me walk in. And she stood me up and she physically welcomed me into womanhood. So she drew an imaginary line on the ground and set a pen on it and said, "Welcome to womanhood." But I can't really explain how significant that was for me. It was very special being affirmed by an older woman in the faith and hearing the things that she has seen in me. And as far as femininity, it goes so much further than how I look on the outside or how others see me. Sure, if I want to dress up or look nice, I can. Or if I want to wear makeup, I'm able to. But those things ultimately don't make me a woman. But it's the inward person that God has made me to be, which is gentle and beautiful and graceful. This is a quote. "God, please continue to affirm me in my identity in you. Would you tell me who I am in your eyes? I need to hear it from you, God. I'm craving a firm identity in you." That was a quote from my journal dated September 18th, 2017. And that was my prayer during the beginning of the program. And it still is in many ways. Acts 17:28 says, "In him we live and move and have our being. In God I live and move and have my being." Thank you.